I'm here today to answer the question, what are closing costs? Whether it's your first time you're purchasing a home or you haven't purchased a home in many years, you may say to yourself, I have $500,000 in my budget to purchase a home. So does that mean I can actually afford to buy a $500,000 property? Probably not. It's very important to find out exactly what your closing costs are going to be, in addition to the actual sales price of the property. Often, closing costs can be actually a part of the negotiations, but it's important to understand what's real, what's fluff, especially if you're buying a new construction build. Oftentimes, the actual builder can actually throw in some extra and additional closing costs just to increase their profit margin. It's rare, but it actually does happen. The three biggest closing costs that you should be aware of are: one, the fees that it takes to obtain the loan, any transfer or stamp tax that are associated, and any specific title fees. In most cases, the seller will pay for the buyer's agent commission, so that's one less thing that you have to worry about. Also, in Palm Beach County, for example, by default, the seller will select the title company, but they will also be the one to pay for the owner's title insurance policy, as well as pay the majority of any stamp or transfer tax that are associated with the transaction. On average, it's safe to budget about 1 to 2% for the total amount of closing costs that are associated. Some of the fees will be paid out of pocket, some fees will be paid by the seller, and some fees will be paid at the very closing in an accumulation of what we call your cash to close. So it's important for you to understand that there are two main fees that will be paid out of pocket, such as inspection as appraisal, which are about $500 on average. There are a lot of fees that you absolutely can wrap into the mortgage or the loan, and then there are also fees that can be either negotiated and by default will be paid for by the seller. So as you can see, it can be a little complicated navigating through all these trees and understanding what your closing costs will be. This is why it's vital for you to hire a skilled buyer's agent who can help you navigate the waters of closing costs and make sure that what you're paying is legitimate, not fluff, as well as there's no errors on the closing disclosure, which happens very commonly, believe it or not, whether it's intentional or unintentional, where closing companies or title companies actually have some of the fees that are supposed to be paid for by the seller actually paid for by the buyer. This can save you thousands of dollars and happens a lot more than you would imagine. So if you would like an estimate closing disclosure that will highlight and isolate all of the fees, message me and let me take the guesswork out of closing fees and help you plan and budget accordingly.